this is my second year.
Yeah. So tell us, what have you reflected on? Since the very beginning of Street Text, as obviously our program has changed a little bit. So have the funnels. What have you gotten out of it? Like, give us some. You don't have to like give me exact numbers unless you have those numbers. But what has been your overall success with Street Text so far?
Um, Last year, I think I closed seven and with Street Text, and I I think I had shut it off because I was really busy and was out of town and whatnot. I think like over the summer, but I started it up again. I think in August or so. I guess I didn't totally shut it down, but in August I started again, and so I'm just filling the pipeline. And now I probably have, I don't know, maybe 15 people that are going to be ready between March and June, you know, that I've been talking to, from Street Text leads. I am a little bit, Dr. Logan, I'm a little bit out of sorts with all the new things because my original ad was just on autopilot.
Mhm.
It was so fabulous, and I got lots of comments and whatnot. And the whole changes with the 15-mile radius. Like for example, last night I turned off my ads that I had recently running because I had selected an address that was 15 miles out, but it was giving me just obscure Orlando properties that I don't want. So last night I turned on different ads. I followed your little video, Marcus, on how to do it with the drop the pin and all of that. So I'm hopeful that I'll get more leads. But I'm working the ones that I got. I got some really good leads. Like I said, August through December. So I'm really happy with that.
Now, typically, you go through your account from the very beginning. Would you say, I mean, have you put kind of a timeline on ideally when these leads, like what would work for you? Like defining your process then when you first started and defining your process now, what would you say is the one thing that you can give as a piece of advice to people from the moment these leads come in, looking to see what their home could sell for? How have you incubated that lead? And
The biggest advice that I can give to people is don't worry whether it says immediately or just curious or whatever it says. Treat them all the same. And I look them up. I see when was the last time they sold. I send them an RPR, and then because sometimes the RPR goes into their junk mail, I CC myself on the RPR and email, and then I send them an email from my email address with the bomb bomb video that introduces myself. And then all of these people are also going onto HomeBot.
I love
So
it.
that's been my recent process. Unfortunately, the address onlys, I don't do mail outs like I was doing my first year. What I do is I look at the addresses, and because I have a couple of small towns around where I live, if they're right next to me, they're getting put on a mailing list, you know. Um, so, and if they haven't sold in a while, so I kind of vet them and see which ones I really want to connect with on the address onlys.
That's amazing. So your process obviously recently started including HomeBot and BombBomb, and before it didn't have those included. So for those transactions that you have had with Street Text, what was there anything particularly that you did, do you think, in the beginning to get that person to actually invite you on over and do a walkthrough or actually list their home? Was there anything special you think that you noticed?
Um, I just think, just again, they have to know that I know what I'm talking about. I usually have the photo of their house. I love that tool on BombBomb, the screen sharing.
Hmm.
I just love that. I mean, it's not like anybody has responded to me and said, "Oh, that's my old paint color" or something like that. They haven't done that, but I know that they opened it and all of that. So I like that tool. But yeah, just I just always click, or I always find something, about their house, uh, you know, if I was showing houses in their area, I say so. I was like, oh, I showed the house 2 doors down. You know what I mean? Or something that lets them know that I'm a real life person working in the area, and I have the pulse, I have the pulse on the real estate in this area, and I find that goes a long way.
That's amazing. And for someone that's ghosting or just not responding, do you just let the drip kind of do its thing, or do you have a plan of checking in every month, every quarter? How do you kind of work those leads that you haven't maybe initially got in contact with? And do you have any success with people that just didn't talk to you in the beginning, but then, a couple months later you checked in and you start a conversation?
Well, what's weird about that is that, on the dashboard, when people are responding and all of that, I'll send an additional email. I did have one guy last week. He said to me, "Well, we decided not to sell." So at least he finally responded. It's okay,
Right.
you know. But I knew he was checking, and I knew he was, engaged in what I was sending. So besides the drip, then I sent him another email. And it's nice whenever they respond and they say whatever the response is, it's good. Two-way communication is what I look for. Whether they tell me no or whether they say, because this guy, it's so funny. Again, I looked up his Facebook. He didn't friend me, but I looked up his Facebook. I know that he's engaged, and I know that his girlfriend moved to Michigan. So he's gonna sell that house. So we'll see. I'll just keep on contact with him. The house is right up the road from my office. So that's just the way it is. But I really like the dashboard for that, in terms of, I think it tells me when people are opening. And so I go through that. It is a little painful when I go through my list, like from last summer, for example, and I see that they already listed. And some of that you can help, and some of that you can't help. Just again, I just always believe in doing what I call income producing activities, which I learned in direct sale a long time ago. And just focus on the process, and the results will come. So just I've been time blocking and doing that more so than I have ever in my 13 years of real estate. And one thing that Buffini says is, and I'm guilty of this because I'm an experienced agent and I have referral business. If I get busy in that referral business and I don't do my prospecting, well, Buffini says you didn't work that day. So, you have to prospect constantly so that you can fill the pipeline for the future. And that's what this does.
I love it. I know, Vance, you're on here too, and you and I speaking yesterday about lead to experience, right? That lead comes in, the experience you provide in that very moment is, I think, a big one. And I've been challenging a lot of people, and I know Stacy, you and I were talking about it too yesterday. Well, how do you get them? The auto email is your first experience you're giving them. So if you're not getting any traction on that auto email, I don't think we're actually giving them the experience that we personally want. We may set the tone and expectations, but shouldn't the experience be set in such a way where our autoresponders are getting dialogue started? And I think everything we need to shoot for is that first impression and the experience, so the conversation begins from the very get-go. And it could be something simple. And this is why we have these masterminds. We should be talking about this, because all we're looking for is a dialogue starter. We want a reply back from that email, whatever that reply is. Once that reply happens, then you can naturally take that into any direction you want. But if it's just saying your name and thank you, and I'll be getting in touch with you shortly, there's no call to action there. But you can't have a call to action that's too intense either, where they're just going to say, no way. It's got to be really easy to reply to. And I think that's the key in 2020, is define a process that begins the conversation today, So this way you can then decide where you're going to put these leads and how you're going to nurture them. Make sense? And I mean, I think that's where we're really all challenged to go to. And I think that's why we've all talked about for so long. It is so important to set that experience within the first automated email where it feels so natural, genuine, authentic, but it actually needs to be keep it short, and it needs to probably ask just a simple, quick question. My question to you is, what is that question? Right? And so that's something we should talk about and mastermind a little bit. Hey, Denise, can I ask you a question? And if feel free to unmute yourself there, or I could try to do it for you if you can hear me. Can you hear me? Perfect. So Denise, you've been with us for a while now, right? So reflecting back, I mean, I don't know if it's 2018 or 2019, reflecting back on when you first started to what you know about StreetText today, and thanks, Belinda, for sharing. What would you say, like, from the moment you got started till where you're at now would be a defining moment where you're like, oh, this is what I need to do, and maybe share some of the wins and some of the learnings in that process to the time you started until what you know now?
So I started last spring, I think it was April of 2019. And I had a lot of great traction initially. It has not been, I haven't been getting the response that I did in the beginning this last part of the year. And I think it's partly just the time of year. But initially, I think I had 5 sales total from StreetText in 2019, just getting started. So my ads are getting tons of leads though. Like this week alone, I think I got 15 leads. So I'm getting a lot of, and they're all accurate emails, they're accurate phone numbers. People are responding. They're not necessarily ready to do something right now. So I understand that this is a long-term plan and not a short-term fix.
Cool. And so what has your process been? Can you take us through a little bit on, maybe even the beginning and with how you got success with those 5? Were they all similar type of experiences, or, and then today, do you have an automated email with a video? Do you have a way you personally follow up? Do you, treat leads differently depending on the information they put in that funnel? How do you work your follow-up, and how do you get the conversation started with these people to get that invite into their home?
So I actually do have the embedded video in the first email that goes out. I think I have embedded videos in the first 4 emails in the automation, actually.
Oh, cool. And first 4, I love it.
Yeah. And so people do respond to that. I've been getting a lot of response lately to Julie, which I wasn't in the beginning. It's interesting because it's not very consistent. Some things work sometimes, and then it seems to change. So initially I send out the automated email with my video, and then within the next day, I try to get something over to them, whether it's an RPR report, or sometimes I can give them more specifics if I know the neighborhood really well. It depends on the address and the neighborhood, really, what I send them. But I always try to ask questions, yes, confirming the information about the house, because I find that our data is often wrong, and that gets engagement too.
I love it. So when you're responding to these people personally, how do you set up your first email with that RPR report? Are you doing a video with it? Are you doing first an email to find out more information about their home, and then do an RPR report? How are you kind of combining all that information?
So the first email I send out is asking questions, showing with the RPR report, saying, here's the data I'm able to find about your home. I find that sometimes the assessor's office information is not accurate. Can you just confirm these things? And I bullet point a few things, trying to get them to respond. And then if they do respond, we can have a deeper conversation. If they don't, I still follow up with, hey, I need to come out to your house to see it, but here's what homes similar to yours, based on the home facts I have, are selling for, to give them some kind of market information.
Amazing. Now, are you doing any profiling with these people on Facebook?
I'm not. I have been reluctant to try your advice and friend people on Facebook, and interact through Messenger. And that is a goal to change for me because I think that there's value there. I've just been reluctant to do it, but I want to start doing that.
I love that. And here's the thing, guys, you don't necessarily have to do the friend thing, but you do all have access to a Messenger URL, right? So if you're really going after perhaps a different call to action with your automated video that goes out, maybe the call to action is the Messenger. Say, hey, if you just click below, it'll take you directly to my Facebook Messenger and I'll get that report over right away, right? Something super easy, which would cause them to, or if you tell them just to do something, say something in that Messenger where they click on that link and they are taken directly to your Facebook Messenger. Because remember, guys, once you have their Facebook Messenger, you have their Facebook profile no matter what. Mm-hmm. And at that point, it brings this to life. It humanizes the process. You immediately get to see this person. Instead of it being just a lead or an email or an address, you actually get to see their face and their lives and their personalities and their families. And, you know, you can do some digging. Perhaps you have mutual friends. Perhaps you do the same softball thing at the end of the day. Like, you know what I mean? You never know, right? So my challenge to you guys here is start thinking that way, because it's Facebook, right? And that's where it all got started. Your business page was out there spending money to get in front of an audience you've never met before. But the only way to create influence is to understand that it's a face-to-face thing, right? And I know, Ira, if you're here, you're talking about it. Why don't you help them understand the idea of the attention economy that we live in today? So that really puts this in perspective.
I think that I've been reading a lot about this thing called the attention economy, and we're living in a day and age. And one of the things that I read the other day was that, you know, a goldfish has the attention span of 8 seconds. Human beings used to have the attention span of 12 seconds. And in recent studies, it's been shown to be 7 seconds now. So we actually have an attention span that's shorter than a goldfish. So those who are running into 2020, looking to put some automations and some systems around capturing people's attention, are the ones that are going to win. You know, when we're living in an economy where it's really hard to like get into people's heads, it's really hard to build relationships, it's really hard to capture people's attentions. How do you do that? Well, I think you do that by building extreme value. And you do that by being in people's, you know, where people are. And unfortunately, I mean, everywhere you go, it's called Facebook for a reason, because people's faces are in it all day, every day. So if you can bring all of the attention back to Facebook, because that's where we've met people, and you can pour some systems and automations and consistency into getting your presence known on Facebook, but it's also by offering value, not by look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me. It's by saying, hey, you know who's important in this transaction? You are. And like you can hear it from our realtors in the community they have an abundance mindset, where they believe that, you know, it's just a matter of time, that there's enough people out there, there's enough relationships out there, there's enough transactions out there, and I know that consistency wins. And if I'm going to consistently paying attention to the systems and the automations and my week-to-week daily activities, I know that those are going to pay off. I know I'm going to be rewarded because I'm learning how to capture people's attention. And I think you're doing people a favor. You know, we're stuck in a kind of place in our culture where people have a hard time making a decision. They waver over decisions, and you're dealing with a decision that's a huge transaction. It's people's homes, it's people's livelihoods, it's people's finances. There's a massive opportunity there to make some massive impact. So if you believe in what you do, you believe in how you do it, then you want to learn how to capture people's attention in 2020. You want to put those systems in place in 2020 to be able to, you know, help people make some decisions in a time where it's really hard for them to make decisions. So like you said, they put immediately or they put just curious. It's somebody who's wavering in that decision-making process. So if you come in as a friendly face, if you come in and you've captured their attention, you offer them some value, I mean, you're being helpful to that person that's wavering over decisions. And if you just know that your systems are in place and you have that abundant mindset, you know that the relationships are going to transact into things that you're looking for, which are sales. You're looking for those transactions, but it comes in those daily processes. So when we're looking forward into 2020, it's really like how you're going to get those systems in place, and as well as your belief that those systems will pay off. It's really a belief mindset that we need to work on. And you can see that in the success of the realtors in our community. They believe it's going to pay off, so they do the work to make it happen. How's that?
That was good. I like it.
I see some nodding from some people who are doing the work, like they understand. And that's just a learning process we all go through, right? Is we learn that consistency pays off. And the only way we learn that is by doing it. And the only way that we get in that is that kind of like checking in on our belief each morning. Do I believe that this is going to pay off? Do I believe? I love that. Someone said, raise your expectancy level. Yeah. Get up in the morning and expect that good things are going to come to those who are consistent with the processes, and don't allow those quick little text messages and comments and those people that are, just in the throngs of a busy life, and they're being thrown everywhere, and they kind of blurt out at you in a text message or an email. You're just an outlet for them, and don't let it throw you off of the process. To me, that person just needs a little bit more hand-holding and a little bit more attention. And if you're that person that's going to give it to them, that might be the person they're going to do the transaction with in the future.
Well said. And I think that's so important. That's why we need to humanize the process as fast as possible in the beginning. Because if you give them any opportunity to interpret what that ad was or what that email that shoots off is, then you're already lost at that moment. Then you're backpedaling to try to get the conversation started, which is why I'm such a firm believer that you have to continue get in front of them as often as possible. So why not do that through Facebook? Why not do that through Messenger? Why not do that through video? And just like you have, Denise, you have your video in the automated one. You have your video in the day 3. You have your video in the day 10. You have the first 4 videos. That's an opportunity anytime you can create. And we're going to actually move in 2020 to allow you to have new automations everywhere, no matter what funnel you're using, right? And there's now more funnels than ever, including the lead ad version, which is collecting all their information up front, which is cool because there's some really good opportunities happening on the buyer side, I've seen with the lead capture of the Facebook lead ads. So that's awesome. Stacy, can I call on you for a second?
Sure, what's up?
So, okay, you've been around for a little bit here and you got some good experience based on, reflecting back on 2019, originally working with that good looking dude Logan over there. So what would you consider, like, what have you learned looking back on 2019 with StreetText and what's worked coming into what you're doing today? What would you say would be a good takeaway for people to kind of think about?
That same as pretty much everybody else is saying is just taking the time, creating a system. If you have a system, it just makes it less stressful. I know in the very beginning when I started getting the leads, it was very overwhelming and I didn't know what to do. And it was like, what am I going to do with all this? If I'm not following up, these aren't converting. And a lot of the ones that I got in the beginning, I wasn't calling, I wasn't emailing, I wasn't texting, I wasn't doing anything because it was just too much. So I actually asked Logan, I'm like, can you just shut me down for a while so I can figure this out? And give me like a little break here so I can figure it, because I know that I'm not going to be successful by just having them thrown at me like that. So I had to figure out like a system and a funnel and add to it, make it personal to try to win people over. So I'm working on that. I just launched everything, so I'm still pretty new at my launching, and I'm right now kind of seeing what's going to happen, where the response is, and I think that's just the most important part, is just to have a system and to be doing something. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can tweak it. But I think the important part is you were pushing me a lot yesterday. I appreciate that. But at the same time, as long as you're doing something, it's better than absolutely nothing. And I think that's what a lot of people aren't doing, is something. And I just got an email today from somebody that's like, hey, I know that you've been telling me to do something for the last 4 months. You're probably disappointed in me. I'm like, I'm not disappointed in you that you've not been doing anything. You have to do it though. When you're ready, I can't make you do it. So I think the important part is just do something. It doesn't have to be this perfect, masterful thing. If you just start with one thing, it will grow, I promise. So it wasn't easy. What I built and put together, it was a lot of work. It was boring work and tedious work, but now at least it will save me a bunch of time, and now I can start testing and altering and adding and keeping it growing and growing versus I don't have anything in place.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing. Leon, looking at you, buddy, because I know you've been at this for a while now, and you're all about systems and processes. Tell us what's going on. What have you learned? What have you noticed?
So here's what's really funny. I was just sitting there looking to see when you and I first met. It was way back in 2015 when I first gave it a shot. And like I said, I went away from it for a minute because other systems I was bringing on, it just wasn't doing what I wanted. And when I sat there, like I said, you know, I give you credit because you're the perfect example of follow up, and you know, basically stalk them till they die or buy, because you stayed with me, and I'm like, all right, let me see what you got. And because I had the other systems in place that I was bringing online to work with it became the right fit. And so just a real quick one, I've done 4 deals that I've closed with my StreetText leads. And I always say playing with the house money, because I had a deal when I first came back on with you guys that I closed right away. So at that point, it's like, okay, I'm playing with the house's money right now because it's paid for. So I can just do some stuff. But for where I'm at, same thing. I wanted to build up the inventory. I was getting my call center online, getting everything over. And I launched a retargeting ad last week. It sucked, but I wanted to go through it to see what it was going to do. And I rebuilt one last night. So I'm going to see what it does, because I was telling everybody right before we took our little Christmas break, we have all these leads we need to work. We need to do something with. You can't just keep getting more leads and not working the other ones. So I've been really aggressively going after stuff I've had in there. Less is better. You know, Kenneth was the one I was laughing at. He got me down a whole different path, and I'm liking mine now because my videos are right around a minute. I'm shooting a video. If I'm looking for something wrong, I had one that I pulled up the Google Earth. It showed a black picture and nothing. So my message to the seller was, hey, you know, thank you for visiting Facebook page, request evaluation. Just wanted to verify this is your home. As you see, Google doesn't always get it right. Here's this black picture of nothing. And then I had the house from the MLS pulled up in the background. I pulled up and said, this is the one I believe it is. I said, actually, I know it is. I know your neighborhood very well. So I don't tell people I kind of know their neighborhood. I sit there and tell them I'm very familiar with the neighborhood. If I've had a house I've sold in the area, because if you're going to be the expert, you got to be the expert. And I'm asking them to verify the information so that I can, myself or one of the team, get something out to them. But the yes, no questions, really short video. HomeBot's really good. I've had people coming in, engaging off that. They're correcting mistakes in there. What's more surprising to me is they've been correcting their mortgages, which was something I really hadn't thought they would do. But I've seen people correcting their mortgages in there to see what their equity factor is and stuff like that. So once I get that there, I'm making a point to actively reach out myself. And then I'm turning them over into my call center, and I've got the action plans running where I'm hitting them up. But this year, I always say, you know, 2020 is the year of the vision. I tell them it's 2020 vision. And I ask them, I say, well, 2020 is the year of the vision. What's yours? You know, getting personal, like you say, ask them what it is they're looking to do, not asking for the business and letting the business come to me. I've been on 3 appointments in the last week. I've got one at noon today. So starting to really get feedback. And I knew mine was going to take about 5 or 6 months here just because of the market. But I'm starting to see the returns, and I'm really going after these guys, you know, aggressively without being too pushy.
Awesome. So share maybe the experience you're giving these guys now, coming full circle from the moment they submit their email. What's the system doing? Is it including an embedded auto video email from BombBomb? And then and you're personally checking in within 24 hours with
or less. So I've got like 3 videos and stuff like that. I've gone in, and even on the retargeting thing, I was laughing when we've seen that last week. I've even got the text and the email response going back out of that. But the idea behind it in speed delete is once they come in there, I acknowledge they're there. I go ahead and I'm daily getting them out. When I sit there and I've got something in there, I get it out to them same day, just looking to get an answer reaction from them. And then depending on where they're at or what they're doing. So rather than, you know, because everybody says, you know, working your system time, I don't have time to sit down and do a full-blown CMA for somebody that's just curious or just kind of looking. If a guy say, you know, the level of need is if they say, hey, look and sell my house immediately, doesn't mean it is. But if I send something out, they go, yeah, we're looking to move this and that. And okay, well, you know, is there something I can do to help you? Let me ask you a couple questions. I don't tie them up too long, and I just get them moving in the direction, and then just the whole follow up.
Yeah. And that's good. And I think we're always starting the conversations all about how do we start the conversation. But what do you do with these guys, Leon? And for all of you guys that have been here for a while, Denise, Stacy, Keisha, for people that, 3 months go by, 6 months go by, you have these leads from a year. Have you all considered or tried using Julie, as long as you've been using Julie, to come back and check in?
That's who I use. Julie gets a better response than Leon, believe me.
Yeah, 100%. So are you checking in on a quarterly basis, on a monthly basis with Julie? Because I think a lot of people, unfortunately, what I see is they'll wait till the response happens. And then but they won't use Julie with a phone number collected, even though they know it's being sent. Maybe even one of those leads never responded to Julie. You should still go back in and acknowledge that all those phone numbers were collected, check to see what Julie had sent already, and then come back in and even ask another personal question, because you're always looking for a response.
My action plans running have Julie on there. So what happens is I don't just run it out StreetText. I run Lion Desk. I've got the campaigns in there. So it's a mixture of emails and texts. So if they respond to any of that, even I get notification right away. And same thing, I respond as Julie and do a pass over and I'll tell you what, one of the team will give you a call. And so when the call comes back, they're not wondering like, oh, who is this? Or I'm being handed down to somebody. They're already knowing that someone was going to get back to them. But I've actively got stuff running for everybody 24/7. Actually, it's kind of funny because this week I launched my campaigns for the year and set it and forget it. So it's running for the year. And then what I also do, if there's anything that pops up, like here in Washington State, they changed the excise tax. So what I did is I pull up all the sellers and I sent out something showing the excise taxes have changed. Have you seen how this affects you? And I've sent that out to them as well. And I tracked the opens. A couple of people commented, some negative, some like, oh, that, the government's too, blah, blah, blah. And I said, yeah, I know it's, but I just still keep myself in front of them.
That's good. What about social media? I'm just curious in terms of bringing it back full circle. And Stacy, you've got the Sunny and Ben group, you've got YouTube, you've got Instagram, you've got everything. I think I saw on your social side. How are you bringing it back to the social side? So there's this personal element, this is personality element that gets them to see you. Not just we all start with the professionalism of everything and our expertise in that neighborhood, but how do they come full circle with them seeing your presence socially and get to know you as a human being? What's the action plan that way? And that's the challenge I have to you guys. How do we get that opportunity with them so they get to see that we're just likable people that have families that drink coffee and like to do some fun things at the same time? So what's that been like for you, Stacy, getting that opportunity to connect on the social level?
Honestly, it's really exciting right now just to get a friend request accepted and then put them in my group. It's very exciting because I'm like, oh my gosh, they were a ad and that they randomly put their information in, and then I have found them, stalked them on Facebook. And because it's not easy, I'm friending the wrong people and they're like, I don't even know who you are and I don't own a house. And I'm like, oh, so sorry. And then there's 3 other, I'm like, well, I got 3 more to try. So it's been a little interesting friending the wrong people and stuff, and then still trying to find connections with them. So anyways, it's very stocky, to be honest with you, but it's really cool when I find them and then they accept my friend request, and then I get them in the group, because in the group I start supporting local businesses, and we start running, hey, post your photo and we'll make you the group photo for the month or the week. Post your favorite winter photo. And so there's a lot of personal engagement happening in the group. So that's kind of where I really want everybody to go. But while they're on my personal page, and if they don't accept the invite to the group, because once they're my friend, I can just toss them in the group. And then because I'm the the admin of the group, I can just throw them in the group. And they don't even have to, whatever. It's once I'm their friend, I can get them in there. And then I'm always getting people to like my Facebook business page, and they're on my personal. So, I mean, there's 3 avenues where they're seeing me be very personal. Photos, talk about life, people are asking questions, and then all of a sudden when that street texter starts engaging in my business, or I'm sorry, my group, I mean, that's just crazy, right? Because they came from nowhere. And so now everybody in the group knows who I am. And so I have a huge presence in there, obviously. Like, I try to create that presence. And that right there is a lot of work too, but it's worth it. And to me, that's free money because I'm just being social and people are asking questions, and I keep all business out of the group. So I'm not a business person in the group. Every once in a while I'll post from my Facebook business page in there, but it'll be like, oh, hey, this place has the best Bloody Mary, check it out. It's like by far my favorite. Or hey, Sunny went ice skating up at 7th Mountain. Have you guys even been there? It's like the best the cheapest ice skating rink. Here's the price. So they're just getting more value in that group, and then there's no business in that group. So that part I like the most, I think.
That's so cool. And Facebook groups, I mean, it's a controlled environment. It's the best, right? You guys are all in the insider group, so you know what a Facebook group is. And it's where you can create and command everyone's attention if you're putting value in there, and you can track it. So I think it's a smart thing to do, to try to, think maybe 2020 vision involves creating a group, a lifestyle centered group, which is all about the best things to do in that local area that you live in.
And the cool thing about it too is I've sold to people in that group, and I'm helping people purchase in that group that didn't come from StreetText, but they're like, oh, if anybody mentions real estate in that group, I have at least 5 or 6 people who are like, oh, Stacy's great, Stacy's great. So now I have people in my group suggesting me, and those people are seeing it too. So it's just it's a gold mine, I think the group is. I have so many buyers for next year from that group. So it's pretty awesome.
Hey, Stacy, just for your searching on Facebook, you are using the advanced feature of Facebook, right? When you search for them. So when you type in someone's name, go to people, and then go to city, just in case, because I just used you as an example because we're friends already, but there's Stacy Sebastian Maui, and there's a bunch of Stacy Sebastians down here. So if you don't actually choose the city, like if I choose Bend, right, it's going to automatically have only one Stacy Sebastian. So just to make sure, when you guys are searching for people on Facebook, go to people, go to the city, and oftentimes that'll narrow that search down for you, so you don't have to talk to 5 of the same people to figure out who.
What's really funny though is some people are traveling to the city, and so you'll friend request them because they actually visited the city, but they're actually not the person. So it's been kind of funny. It's been working, but then sometimes it doesn't. But I look at it in a way that, well, they're visiting the town and they probably know somebody. So if I can keep their friend request still, that's good too, right?
Yeah, you never know. And they might just ask you a question. You just say, hey, so sorry, if you want to know anything about your time here in Bend, I can totally help you out. I know everything that would, things to do, things that you might want to look at, and just kind of be a concierge service instead. Cool, guys. That's awesome. Anybody want to share? Hey, George, good to see you, my man. Thanks for tuning in. You missed some good conversation already. Can you unmute yourself there? Maybe not. I don't want to take
What's going on?
Hey, man. So walk us through what you've learned in 2019 that you're going to apply in 2020 with StreetText.
Work harder and eliminate all the other distractions as far as partial working lead generation sources. Like I told you and Steven and everybody else on the team, I'm going all in with StreetText. I'm putting 80% of my spend all in that system and all the supporting systems to help.
All right. Well, that's
You're cutting out a little bit there, George. It's a little robo voice there.
That's cool. You can write something really cool in the insider group that'll inspire us all later. Appreciate you being on here, though, my friend. Bet you. Anybody else? I know there's a couple people. Deanna, feel free to reflect on your thoughts so far. Keisha, if you're there. Noel, Nadine. It looks like Liam, Rhonda. You guys are all feel free. This is the mastermind. So feel free to unmute yourself, ask questions. When you have all these great people here right now, this is a perfect time to ask questions that they can help you with. Arthur, same type of thing. I know you're just kind of getting started in all of this. So feel free to ask questions. This is a perfect time just to kind of dialogue and mastermind around what you want to make happen for 2020.
All right, well, since you called me out there, my leads that are coming in are way better than I could have ever expected as far as the quantity. And my ad spend is so low, it's like 93 cents or 96 cents or something ridiculous. My problem, and I wish I could totally pick Stacy's brain, is the flow of the follow-up and just coming up with a routine, something that I'm not constantly having to do over and over myself. I find myself very overwhelmed with just that automation of stuff. So that's where I'm at, is just really struggling with the automation. I think I have probably 10 leads that have come in, and it's only, 1:45 here today. So my ads work for me here, but getting the interaction is not working.
Well, perfect, because we have a solution for you. Stacy's going to be on the Lab Code Agents on Friday, and she's going to be highlighting that exact thing.
Awesome.
So, tune in Friday. And now, Stacy, I know you also have a mastermind group that you're kind of heading to. So feel free to share that if you want to get people included in that as well, which I think would be really cool, because at the end of the day, we're all just trying to help one another define that process. And so if you can find some gold nuggets, you can find some gold nuggets. We're all gonna win. That's what I love about this group. That's what I love about StreetText. What I love about Facebook. There's no like exclusivity, like, oh, I can't give you my process, you're gonna take it. It doesn't work that way. We actually have, I think, Logan, do we have like 15 agents here in Kelowna in a little market of 100,000?
I think we have more than that now, but yeah, it's and I think Leon says it best. He says it all the time, right? With the fact that most of our top agents don't mind sharing absolutely all of their gold nuggets, because they know that most other agents won't employ them all.
No.
Right? I mean, you can tell somebody everything and then have them not do it, even though they can see the success for other people. So I think that's the beauty of this group, is that not only do people share their experiences, they also are willing to run with others. Right? You hear what's working for somebody else, and most of you guys are quick to implement those into your own processes and your own business, and then come back the next week and share what that's done for you. And will results always be immediate? Of course not. Right? But I mean, when you're consistent with something and you're building a system from the ground up, you're employing different strategies that you're learning from all these other people who are winning, it's phenomenal to see. And this is honestly, these Wednesdays are always my favorite. And even when I don't say much, I get to sit here and listen to everybody. It's phenomenal. So everybody keep up the good work.
Speaking of not saying much, Troy. Yeah, anything to say up there in the corner?
Not today, no.
Just listening in. Keisha, you haven't said much today, and I know you've been around for a while. What have you taken from your time with StreetText? Reflect back on, it's been, I think, what did we start, 2018 maybe, Keisha? When did we start together?
Probably about 2018.
Cool. So, I mean, you've been on a lot of these at this point. What have you taken as, the main takeaway for your own follow-up and getting conversations started with these leads?
That StreetText is still evolving. And I say that because it's very different from when I first started. So it's like, if you don't plug in, you don't know that the crew has moved on. Like, okay, now we're using BombBomb. Now we're using HomeBot. Like, we're continuing to grow. And then I think the whole 15-mile radius thing was a big change. I mean, at least for me in my market, I was having a difficult time just getting an ad to run. Because I think, like, maybe in the beginning it was just like, I had so many leads to, how do I get this to a respectable number? So right now what I'm doing, I'm kind of fishing in my own pond right now and, working the leads that I already have. Yeah. So I'm actually sitting here typing out a little comment, like asking if anyone had run a retargeting ad. And if so, like, how is it performing?
Yeah, Leon was talking about that earlier. Go
I'll
ahead.
laugh. It sucked. But, you know, though, successes come from failures. And what was really funny, Keisha, is the thing that came back to me is it said I had too many words in it. And so my suggestion to anybody, do not try to add links or whatever on the front of that, none of that. Brand your logo, brand yourself, and then you're able to actually put a link for them to drive them to your site. Mine drives them to the CMA because I'm doing all sellers. But you know how we're always told split test something, run 3 ads of the same area. I did something a little different. Instead of $9 a day on an ad, why not run like the 15-mile radius, build your corridor, hit the areas you want, maybe run $3 an ad on a couple of these so that you're hitting them. That way you're still overlapping the areas you want and see what's performing. Shut off the other ones, increase ad spend on the ones performing and go from there. And that way you're getting outside that radius restriction because you're still able to stretch a little further.
Smart. You guys, acknowledge too, never be satisfied with your performance. And Stacy, I'm actually curious to see, you know, that I deployed a bunch of ads for you last night and see what's there in the morning. The idea of that first 500 is so imperative for you guys to understand in terms of ad performance. It's where Facebook is ultimately looking to give you an algorithm that could last indefinitely for you. So you never want to settle on your cost per lead. You always want to try to beat that cost per lead. And so you should always deploy new A/B split tests out of all these templates that you have available. And we're going to try to give you more transparency on all the numbers so you can see what's working. But I mean, that means, you know, using that seller conversion template, running a couple satellite, a couple terrain, and a couple map overnight, and then just be super aggressive when you wake up in the morning at eliminating the duds, right? Because if you get one, what if you just so happen, and I saw somebody on accident do this, they typed in lovely, like if someone were to buy your lovely home. I can't beat that now for some reason. You know, why not throw the little home emojis now into the top part, like the, you know, little home emoji from Emojipedia, instead of the description of the area, throwing a little home emoji in there. Because if you're working that 15-mile radius, there's no need to put a description there. We used to have to say things like county verbiage and stuff. We don't need that anymore. It's gone. So it's best practices, right? Like, and you're right. If you're not tuning in, like Keisha was talking about, you're not going to learn those best practices. StreetText is only as good as your ability to stay relevant with what's going on in the community. So if part of your time blocking and process is not coming to these or you know, engaging in the insider group or staying close to that academy as we update it, you're going to lose out on a lot of things that we're talking about. So I do think if you're going to make StreetText the best, you know, best use of it in 2020, just get plugged in, mastermind, and just ride on the shoulder of the giants that are already working this system and have been working it for years. You know, get plugged into what Stacy is doing, see what she's doing. She's going to be defining all of her process, you know, and Denise and Leon and all you guys that are sharing, you know, continue to share. Give us the wins. Tell us what's working. I think I really want to all hear the emphasis be on trying to get a dialogue started from the very first email. So if we can all collectively together mastermind around something that will engage that seller or buyer to talk to us that moment that they open that email in the inbox, that's where I think we're going to get the biggest wins, because then we can all create a process of getting them to go where we want them to go. So that's my suggestion to you. All right, I know we're kind of nearing the end of the hour. This is your time to kind of Q&A, ask questions, comments, whatever you want. This is a perfect time. Reflect back on last year and talk to us about what you're going to do in 2020, like what your goals are.
I got 2 things I'm going to add though. So another free 99 hit. Facebook is the 3rd largest search engine. Free suggestion, go to Google and Google the #1 real estate hashtags, because hashtags are getting relevance in the searches. So if you're going to be putting something out there, I've been bad about it. I haven't been doing it. 2020, I am going to start using hashtags as well, because like I said, they help you get placement and help you get found. And since the algorithms of Facebook are still searching, they'll come up in there. The other thing is lowest hanging fruit in the tree we always talk about. So I would suggest if people come in there and they've got a phone number in what they send you, text them out of your phone, make that contact, reach out. I go to see who's the most active to least. And so I'm gonna work through my list. I'm not worried about working 350 plus. I'm gonna go in and see who the ones have been active and hit them first every day, because those are the ones that are out there beating the bushes trying to find something. So when people wonder why they're getting the results, if you're hitting somebody who comes in there and checks it once a month, you're not going to get it versus the person that's in there 2-3 times a day and you know the activity. So go after those that are active, turn around and do the hashtags, and definitely text them, because what's it matter if they got your cell phone number? They're going to have it anyway. Text them out of your phone, text them your business card out of your phone, and just get yourself in front of them so they already have that. And then the follow up to that as well will pay off.
Great suggestions. Thanks for those. Anybody else?
I have a quick question.
Get away.
So I'm just kind of getting going, and I'm wondering about anybody's feedback on more traditional mail. Like, I'd say 2/3 of the leads that I've got or contacts that I've got have just provided their address. So I'm wondering if anybody has any feedback on, I saw in the Facebook group it came up in conversation, but just sending out a letter and then what type of follow-up, or if anybody has any suggestions on traditional mail and if it's worked for them. Or any of you guys.
Can you guys hear me better?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you, George.
I'm sorry, Leon, go ahead.
No, I was doing postcards and I haven't liked the feedback. This year I'm going back to my door hangers. So I've got a standardized little letter I have, and I'm going to just pull up information on the home and go drop it on the door. And I don't just drop it on the door. I pull up, if the garage, most people drive in, I hang it on their garage. So if there's a water spigot or something, I want to make them have to get out and get it.
Love that.
My 2 cents is, if they only left an address, I always try and give them 1 to 3 letters before I make an attempt, either text or email. And I actually put it in the insider group, all the systems that I use and buy into. You know, I have a 3-month account now with Spokio because Intellius didn't have all the numbers I needed from a lot of my StreetText leads. TruePeopleSearch.com. There's so many different sources out there that I sent out the letter immediately or within the first 3 days. And one listing appointment I went to, which I didn't get a chance to tell Logan and Marcus and Steven and everybody, I went there and he had 3 letters on the table that I sent him. And that's what triggered the action for him to call me. So I want everybody to know that sometimes your letters, in most cases, 50, 60, 70% of the time are probably hitting the trash. But some of those people are waiting for you to give them knowledge and value before you trigger an action on their standpoint. You aggressive if you in my 2020, you know, and that's why I'm shifting everything over to StreetText, because I see the potential. I have 40, 50 nurtures. Is it 40, 50 listings? No. But is it going to be potential?
George, what we're going to make you do, because you can't hear you, you're going in and out.
10, 20, or 25, yes. And at $10,000 a pop, it's just success.
George, you.
All right, sorry.
You were going in and out that whole time, but we really want to know what you had to say.
Yeah, we were all not leaving. We were sitting here just waiting for it to connect, George. So clearly you got our attention.
Yeah.
I'm gonna record a video when I get home.
Yes.
And put it on the StreetText group.
Perfect.
Hey, Liam, one of the things that I've tried, and it may have just been a fluke, I do a door hanger that says, I've put this together for you. I stopped by to show it to you. I'm sorry I missed you. And that has helped a couple of times. For me in my area, I don't like going out and doing door knocking necessarily from a safety perspective. It's just You know, I don't have people that can go with me, and I'm very conscientious of being a female. Exactly, Leanne. And the other thing, I do have an appointment next Tuesday. I sent, Julie sent information, I sent information, and I sent a letter to this lady, and she called me and said, well, you've clearly put a lot of time into this, so I have to at least have you out. And she was very transparent. She's not looking to sell this summer. She loves her yard. She's not ready to leave it, but probably in the fall. And I put a no pressure approach to it. And I think I'll get the listing, and I sent her a Christmas card and other things. But I think making it professional, I've seen a lot of stuff coming out lately that has grammar errors and spelling errors and just really clunky. If you're going to send it, take the time to polish it and make it look as professional as they should expect from you, and don't rush it. Make it look really good before you're getting it out there.
One other thing I suggest, a lot of people will go set up searches right away for people, this and that. You wind up with a lot of unsubscribes and you lose people. If I have something I want to send, I'll go in the MLS. I might send a real quick blast for a neighborhood snapshot, I call it, but then I don't keep it running unless it's something they want. I'll try to drive them to my site, because if they sign up and it's that their idea in their mind, they'll stay. But so I wouldn't suggest signing everybody up just thinking I'll send them out a monthly thing and automated, because you're trying to keep your unsubscribes down so you don't lose them. So just another thing with that is, like I said, just the ones actively want you, throw them in the site and do it. Other ones, even a monthly little snapshot out to them or something like that. That way you don't get unsubscribes, because they're not getting overwhelmed with spam, because we sometimes forget we're not the only ones out there sending them things. So we don't want to get lost amongst the many.
Well said. All right, that was awesome. This is a great mastermind today. If you guys have anything you want to add or takeaways, post it in the Insider group. And if there's anything specifically you want us to talk about next Wednesday, let us know. I'm kind of looking as a highlight Friday, if you want to tune in at 10 a.m. We're with Lab Code Agents, Tristan, Stacy. Going to be highlighting her process. She's going to be talking about what she does, not just StreetText, the whole thing. So get there if you want. We'll get you that registration link in the StreetText Insider group, and have an awesome week. Make 2020 the best year ever, guys. Talk soon.
Everybody have a great day.